Hey everyone, welcome back to the lessons. Welcome back to the Lighten Up with Bo channel. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are. Right now I'm basically just doing a Course in Miracles lessons and breakdown of the text. But slowly I'm moving into working in some other topics here and there. I did one video recently on the fear list, which really helped me settle into my body way back when I was getting sober. And then the Course in Miracles found its way into my life some years later. But we're on the lessons. You probably just are doing the lesson 12. Now today's lesson 13, if you started with the new year. Or you started at any point. Who knows where you found this in the world. This could be 30 years from now in the dream of time. Somebody's listening to this. Hello, 30 years from now. All right, lesson 13. A meaningless world engenders fear. Yesterday's lesson, lesson 12, was I am upset because I see a meaningless world. Now, a meaningless world engenders fear or invokes fear. Or if you don't know what that word means, you can Google it. A meaningless world engenders fear. Let's begin first paragraph. Today's idea is really another form of the preceding one, yesterday's, except that it is more specific as to the emotion aroused. Actually, a meaningless world is impossible. Nothing without meaning exists. Does this make sense? Nothing that truly has no meaning exists. However, it does not follow that you will not perceive something that has no meaning. On the contrary, you will be particularly likely to think you do perceive it. So, what are they saying there? Because that seemed a little confusing. It does not follow that you will not perceive something that has no meaning. Meaning, we still see all these illusions outside of us. And even though they absolutely are meaningless and have no reality, we absolutely do perceive them as if they are very, very real. Again, just like the dreams that you have at night when you go to sleep. You absolutely dream, for those of you that dream visuals and crazy stories, you absolutely have a seeming experience while you are asleep at night. But at no point did it actually have any meaning in the sense that it had no reality. It was a dream, like a movie on a screen. It was made, but it was made for a movie screen. The movie didn't happen. It's based on a written script. So, next paragraph. Recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. I have that really starred. The recognition of meaninglessness arouses intense anxiety in all the separated ones. The separated ones are all of the minds in the dream of the human experience that believe that I'm a body and you're a body, that believe in black and white, that believe in African and Japanese, that believe that we are absolutely separated from the eternal one source, that we are not one with God, with infinite life. Infinite life lives forever, but this life, no, it dies. So for those that believe that they are cut off, these are the separated ones, the separated minds, which are basically almost everyone that come into this realm of the human experience. So it's saying that to recognize the meaninglessness induces absolute intense anxiety. So that is normal to feel that even in this process of doing the lessons. So it represents to them, meaning the separated ones, a situation in which God and the ego challenge each other as to whose meaning is to be written in the empty space which meaninglessness provides. The ego rushes in frantically to establish its own ideas, in quote, there, fearful that the void may otherwise be used to demonstrate its own impotence and unreality. And on this alone, it is correct. So in this empty space, in this void, the ego, in this empty space of present moment where there's just an empty space of stillness and silence, the ego is constantly bringing in ideas, thoughts, seeming creative ideas. It's constantly writing its own ideas into the empty, still space. Because what the ego is terrified of, and maybe some of you have listened to Eckhart Tolle or read the book The Power of Now, the present moment is the eternal now, the infinite love that's beyond question. And in this space, fear is impossible. It doesn't exist. So a pause, the ego is terrified for us to pause, for us to be still. You know, maybe you've met people like yourself or somebody that says, meditation's not for me. I can't meditate. I can't quiet this. So people believe if they can't shut this off, that they're not meditating. But this is a beautiful idea or belief that the ego gives so that we won't meditate. Because it knows that if we start to practice being in that space of the infinite now, the infinite love, the ego cannot write its beliefs into where God exists, in the present, in this now second. It's terrified, and that's why it says, and on this alone it is correct. Because that stillness, that space, if it doesn't interject its ideas and we don't believe them, the quiet, still voice of spirit and love, the grace of miracles will come in and prove the nothingness of the ego. So, paragraph 3. It is essential, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. So again, based off the first few lessons, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. And now here it is again, a meaningless world engenders fear. But it is essential, it says, therefore, that you learn to recognize the meaningless and accept it without fear. If you are fearful, it is certain that you will endow the world with attributes that it does not possess and crowd it with images that do not exist. To the ego, illusions are safety devices, safety blankets, as they must also be to you who equate yourself with the ego. So basically there it is. The ego induces us from childhood to believe that safety lies in all of these beliefs that we then turn into reality in the world. Hence why we constantly keep creating images and things in the world of form. The ego will invent and create only for a false sense of safety, so that we won't pause. But no, we got to keep going. We got to keep creating. We got to keep doing. We got to keep arriving. We can't just stop, because this is where the ego will be undone. So when we are fearful and we believe in the ego fear and we equate ourselves with fear, then we will constantly keep ourselves in a state of creating things out there to seemingly make us safe. Because the ego wants to be safe from the present moment of stillness that will bring you home. So the paragraph 4 is about doing the exercise. The exercises for today, which should be done about 3 or 4 times for not more than a minute or so at most each time, are to be practiced in a somewhat different way than the preceding ones. With eyes closed, repeat today's idea to yourself. A meaningless world engenders fear. Then open your eyes and look about you, slowly saying, I am looking at a meaningless world. Again, it says you slowly say it, again, either in your mind, or if you're in a room by yourself, you could just say it out loud under your breath, right? I am looking at a meaningless world. Repeat this statement to yourself as you look about. Then close your eyes and conclude with, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. A meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. What? Here it comes, next paragraph. But again, the practice will be, remember, it says just a minute or so. Not more than a minute. Remember, the Holy Spirit knows that in this early state of doing lessons, again, there is going to be triggers. There's going to be an active, like, what do you mean I'm in competition with God? What do you mean the world's meaningless? This is all to come. It's just inviting ideas to practice. Even if you don't understand, again, even if you actively resist, it's okay. That is allowed. Trust a little. A journey in trust. So we close our eyes. A meaningless world engenders fear. I am looking at a meaningless world. You do it for about a minute. I am looking at a meaningless world. And then close your eyes after about a minute and say this to yourself. And I found sometimes that I can't remember the statement. If you have to open your eyes to look at it again and then close your eyes, whatever. There's no perfection here. It's all gentle. A meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. Paragraph 5. You may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another. Again, resistance can be to the very idea you just said, in competition. So you may find it difficult to avoid resistance in one form or another to this concluding statement. Whatever form such resistance may take, tell yourself that you are really afraid of such a thought because of the vengeance of the enemy. You are not expected to believe the statement at this point. By the way, the vengeance and enemies in quotes because it means the vengeance of the ego, the vengeance of fear, right? You are not expected to believe this statement at this point, and will probably try to dismiss it as preposterous. I've been doing the Course in Miracles imperfectly for 15 years, and when I read that, there is still a part of my mind that goes, I'm not in competition with God. But let's get honest. If God equals perfect love, unchanging love, unconditional love, perfect peace, a joy that never ends, a non-duality, a oneness where all things are equally viewed, all things are equally allowed, all things are equally looked upon and embraced with a vision that's beyond the ego's vision. If you're radically honest, isn't there a part of you that might recognize the me that I identify as is totally separate from that version? Yeah, I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to build a beautiful Instagram following with 1 million followers. I want to change the world, the dream. So in some way, it's not saying that you consciously wake up and go, I'm in competition with the universe or God. I'm out to get him. No, but at some level, there is an aspect when we identify with the ego that absolutely is competing with that perfect love and that perfect peace and that soft, infinite identity. Last paragraph. This is our first attempt at stating an overt cause and effect relationship of a kind which you are very inexperienced in recognizing. Do not dwell on the concluding statement, meaning the one we're in competition. And try not even to think of it except during the exercise periods. That will suffice for now. So it's just saying when you conclude that 1 minute and go, a meaningless world engenders fear because I think I am in competition with God. Don't think about it at all except when you do the 3 practice periods. It's nothing to dwell on. The ego wants you to dwell on it. The ego mind wants you to go, yeah, see, you're in competition. It wants you to go into some shame or guilt because it's the one in competition. It wants you to think that you are, but you are not the mind. The part of the mind that is in fear is not who you are. You are the child of perfect love, remembering who it is. So enjoy this lesson. Thanks for listening. Look forward to seeing you back for other lessons. If you want to comment or have any questions, feel free to comment in the videos. If you want to tune in when I release another one, you can subscribe or even share the video. But most importantly, practice and enjoy the practice. These lessons are for you and for all to remember the Christ you are, the truth of who you are, one with all life, and that's the only purpose. So stay light, climb a tree, put on some fun music and dance a little bit, go sit on a swing set, do something playful. Lighten up. See you soon.